Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and its PDAC 2022. And Commodity TV is a proud TV partner, of course, of this fair. Unfortunately, we cannot be personally there, but we use, of course, all opportunities to bring great companies in front of you, like today, Ion Energy. And Ali Haji, the CEO, is here with us. Good morning to you. Actually, you are in New York today. Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Jochen. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, pleasure to see you, and great to see you in good shape. That's fantastic these days. I'm pretty sure you fly back quite soon to Toronto and then do the PDAC. Yeah, honestly, I'm a shareholder of your company. I have to disclose that upfront, of course. And I was very, very happy when I saw your news. Actually, that was my birthday when you brought the news out, funny enough. You reported 918 milligrams lithium per liter in an assay. I mean, that is a great discovery thing, right?
Absolutely. I think, we've had a long hiatus as far as getting out to country in Mongolia and getting some exploration work underway. With the team and I, including Don Haynes and Dr. Mark King. Dr. Mark King was the qualified person at Lithium when it sold to Zijin. So a very seasoned PhD hydrogeologist. Don Haynes, of course, an industry-renowned expert in both the brine and hard rock space. We were able to design an exploration program before going out to Mongolia. We were there about a month ago. It included a number of TEM geophysics lines along with some drill holes. So we drilled about 72 holes in total. But importantly, as you've mentioned, Jochen, we did the old Coke bottle assay, which is, you collect the brine sample on surface, and we received results of up to 918 milligrams per liter. So extremely exciting. As a company, as a board, as far as my technical team is concerned, we're extremely encouraged with what we're seeing. The rest of the work that will be done on Baavhai or Urgaknar, and I beg your pardon, will include some monitoring wells. So we'll start to plan those now that we have the geophysics results in. But 918 milligrams per liter on surface, that's on par with anybody that you might expect to see in LATAM. So one of the majors that have had significant successes or exits. If you're above the 900 milligram per liter range on surface, yes, there is some concentration as a result of evaporation on surface, but we couldn't be more pleased. We're very excited with what we're seeing at Urgaknar.
Yeah, I really can imagine, because I have the photo with the bottle here in front of me. Probably you are holding that, and that looks really great because it's like that brown liquid stuff, and this is the lithium inside, right? So that looks really fantastic. But there's also a beautiful photo, or let's say a map below that in your press release, the exploration status at Urgaknar as of 9th May. So now we are already 4 weeks later. So what's going on there with the lines? What have you done the last 4 weeks here?
The lines have now been completed. We have Zonj in the US currently reviewing the data. So we'll have that put out to market hopefully next week during PDAC. We intend to release the results of that geophysics program. And that, of course, will dictate where the monitoring wells go down into the ground. So that's currently being designed by both Don and Mark. They're working with Tufshin Kishiksuren, who is my director in Mongolia that runs our exploration, who will be at PDAC. So if anybody's around and they'd like to discuss anything with him, he will be around. So they're planning those holes. We intend to get started during the course of PDAC. So hopefully we have an announcement next week where we highlight the stratigraphy as well as the geophysics of the basin, and then ultimately put those drill holes down to put those monitoring wells in place. So lots of work to come, as well as the assay results of the holes that were drilled. So we're really keen with respect to what we're seeing so far.
Okay, super. So you now said those 918 milligrams were from surface. How deep does that brine go down, for example? Because we have sometimes often viewers that say, hey, what is the difference here? How deep are those lakes? How does that work? Because those drill programs are like 800 meters, 1,000 meters only. And if you compare it to gold mining, sometimes one hole is 1,000 meters. So what is that difference here? Maybe you can give us a little bit of explanation.
Of course. So with Urgaknar, for instance, it resides in an endorheic basin, much like you would expect to see in the Atacama or any other such lithium brine asset. It's actually flanked by two fault lines, which is indicative of volcanic rocks. Obviously, the lithium is leached out of that. Given the fact that the actual license is 29,000 hectares, when we were on site, we were able to see a basin or or a bottom of about 17,000 hectares. So quite a significant basin. We were also able to see some salt flats on surface that would mirror what you would find in Argentina or Chile, for instance. And that was encouraging enough for us to say that there is, in fact, brine here. So yes, you're absolutely right. We collected the surface samples and we were able to assay that to 918 milligrams per liter. The geophysics program is where we will dictate exactly how deep those brines are. So that result will come out next week. And obviously the monitoring wells will be as deep as they have to be, ultimately to get to that aquifer body and then ultimately manage or measure the flow rates as well as get a sense of the grade. So too early to tell, Jochen, but the expectation is that they're not as deep as you would find at they're not at the tail end or the far end of depth as far as comparisons are concerned.
Okay, super. So let's assume all your surveys and the TEM and whatever you have done, geophysical lines, that all comes well out. So what would be the next steps? You said monitor wells. What else do you have to do?
So we'd have to do the monitoring wells, and that would allow us to understand the flow rates, the average grade, and ultimately the depth of those aquifers, how quickly they're replenished, which is extremely important, as well as some of the climate-related work. So we will have weather data from Delgare, which is a town about 5 kilometers from our exploration camp. So the weather very much mirrors what you would expect to see on site. And then at that point, when you have an average grade across that aquifer, alongside the geophysics, which gives you a volume, you're at an early resource indication stage. So it's not a PEA. You're not looking at potentially a resource that is 43101 compliant, but you have a good sense of how much lithium is in the ground, and you can put out a resource estimate on the back of that. With that, of course, we expect to see some interest from strategics. We're currently speaking with a number of them, Asian, European, and one out of LATAM as well. So, they're keen to get their hands dirty and roll up their sleeves and get into the data room. We're going to wait until after PDAC when we've compiled all the data based on the release that we're expecting to put out next week. And then we'll provide access to these strategics. And the goal, of course, is, we've always been very clear with Ion Energy. It's not a production story. Our goal is to come to an early resource indication and then partner with a strategic that would ultimately bring this to production. And so having those NDAs in place currently with 11 companies in total now, the expectation is that come September, we'll be in a position to announce a strategic investment from one of these said strategics.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. Hopefully at much higher share prices.
Indeed. I mean, why would I anything less than what the previous raise was? That's not fair to myself or my shareholders. So absolutely would be at a premium.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, that's great. And I think you are only 10, 14 kilometers from the Chinese border. So I could imagine the Chinese are watching you also very carefully, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Baavhai Uul is about 23 kilometers from the Chinese border. Urgaknaran is in and around the 150 to 200 kilometer range, but it's obviously in Dorngovi. Dorngovi is a very infrastructure-rich province. Erlian, which is the primary border crossing into China, is in that province. You have railway, you have highways, you have an oil refinery that's being built by the Indians, a power plant that's being built with Rio Tinto and the government of Mongolia as well. So a very strong province in terms of infrastructure. And you're absolutely right. Our proximity to the largest consumer on the planet, makes Ion quite compelling relative to somebody that has to ship their lithium 15,000 nautical miles to China that consumes 53% of the world's lithium today.
Exactly. So you can track it even in the future. Exactly. I think that's a big advantage. Absolutely. How mining friendly is the province you are in? I mean, you just listed all those advantages, but also with the people around you, surrounding you, the town, is that all in good standing?
Yes, absolutely. Mongolia is a very patriotic nation, a nation that you have to get approval and sign off from just about everybody before you get work done. And for us at Ion Energy, social license is a big part of the way that we operate. And so well before we planned any exploration, we spent enough time speaking with the locals, building the relationship with the community so that they understand what we're up to and the work that we will be doing. And yes, we have received sign off from everybody in that community, in that province. We've had meetings with the elders to explain, mining is something that might be a tad new to some folks. But obviously, with lithium, it is a bit different. Specifically when you're doing brine and you're doing direct lithium extraction, you're not going to scar the land in a way that you might have if you have an open pit coal mine, for instance. This is an operation that will have a plant on site, a DLE plant, that will ultimately pump up the brine, extract the lithium, concentrate a brine solution, and then that would be shipped over to refiners to start anyway. And that doesn't impact the ground so much. You're also pumping back the vast majority of the water back into the water table, so you're not impacting the water table in that region. And that's sort of the education piece that we had to bring forward to the elders and to the community to help them understand what we would be doing in country and in province. So long story short, we've had nothing but unequivocal support.
Fantastic. Super. Last question, because it's for me also of private interest. We saw last week that Goldman Sachs said lithium, cobalt, nickel. Oh, you know, guys, that's done. They're way too high prices. It has moved way too far ahead of the markets, and we think it's going to fall, not sharply, but it will definitely fall. What's your view on that?
That's, it's a great question. And I think for quite some time now, myself and my advisors, including Paul Fornazzari, who is a partner at Vascon, but also the founding chairman of Lithium Americas, founding director of Neo Lithium. He's a key advisor of mine. And him and I have had a number of conversations to date and over the last year or so. I mean, you look at pre-pandemic, lithium was about $6,000 to $8,000 per ton. As of last week, you're looking at $77,000 to $80,000 per ton. These are obviously spot contracts. There is definitely a glut in supply, so you're unable to get the necessary lithium for this clean green energy revolution, and that's why these prices have skyrocketed. It's in our view, more specifically my view, that lithium will start to teeter off here, and that will be required in order for this clean green energy revolution to continue. At today's prices, the equivalent of a Mini Cooper, a two-door Mini Cooper, if that were to be fully electric, at today's lithium prices, despite lithium only being 4% of the battery, you're looking at costs upwards of $100,000 per vehicle. Now, governments can print as much money as they want to subsidize the uptake of electric vehicles, but they're not going to print that much money. And let's not kid ourselves. Inflation and everything else is taking root in the global economy today. So it's in our view that price will come down. It'll be around sub $22,000. That's where we sort of see the sweet spot between $16,000 and $22,000, and that'll start to happen as you have more and more unconventional resources come online. Some of the supply contracts perhaps will either lapse or will require some renewal. But importantly, I think until you can bring lithium on a global metal exchange, much like the LME, it's going to be very tough to track those prices or even try to reduce those prices at this time. So it's in our view that price will come down, but that does not mean that there is enough lithium there today to help fuel at least the next 15 or 20 years worth of electrification.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw also some graphs for next year they expect already 350,000 tons LCE demand. But do we have the supply for that?
Well, it's too early to tell, but I think you start to see more and more come online. There's assets in regions that you would have never thought would have had lithium, such as the Congo. That's getting a lot of interest now for some of their hard rock assets, and we're seeing more and more unconventional resources. I mean, Mali has had investment from Zijin. Zijin just put in a fair bit of money in Tibet. For much the same remit. You have companies that most in the Western Hemisphere have never heard of, but have $3 to $7 billion market caps that are currently aligning themselves with various lithium producers or miners around the world. So yes, I think we'll start to see a number of new assets come online. Will it happen by next year? That's a bit quick, but
exactly.
there are things that are moving quite in the right direction, I would say.
Yeah, and demand is also growing. So I think also there's a nice market still, and I think lithium prices with whatever 25,000, 30,000. I mean, that is still really enough to do a production, especially with brines, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the cost of DLE specifically, when you're partnering with those that have really mastered the skill or have had a number of different successes, which is the Chinese, especially northern China. The cost of operations there can be quite minimal. Obviously, we are a Mongolian company. 100% of our staff in country are Mongolian. There's enough skilled labor in country to run an operation of this magnitude should it come to production. And that allows you to keep your costs quite low. And let's not forget the carbon footprint. We talk about electrification and we talk about getting lithium from LATAM that ultimately ends up in China for this clean green energy revolution. But think about the shipping carbon footprint that is involved, as opposed to perhaps putting it on the back of a truck or a railroad that goes about 150 to 200 kilometers into China from Mongolia.
Yeah, much easier. Super. Thank you very much, Ali. That looks great. And yeah, we look forward hopefully to some good news then next week, and wish you a great PDAC. And I have a good feeling that we talk quite soon.
Of course. Thank you,
Super.
Joachim. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure for me. Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ali Haji, the CEO of ION Energy. And you heard it. Things are really going well. They had this great discovery, actually also on my birthday, which I really liked, of course. That was a nice present. But the stock has not done really a lot so far, which is really strange in that strong lithium markets. And one thing is for sure, the electrification of the mobility is definitely not going away. It is growing. We need more lithium for the future. The demand forecasts are until 2030 already at 1 million tons LCE, and there is the demand. The supply is also growing, of course, but we will see if the supply can go hand in hand with the demand. I'm not really sure, because it takes time to bring up new mines and it takes time to get them all permitted. But we are very positive on lithium, very positive on ION Energy. You should check out this fantastic company. And as Ali said, they are only some kilometers away from the Chinese border, and this is where 53% of the lithium in this world is really used. So thanks for watching us. That was for PDAC 2022. Bye bye from Switzerland.